What's up guys, I'm BTC. We're going to be getting much faster updates according to Jeff Kaplan. This also includes more frequent shifts in the meta. I've been getting a lot of questions about if this is going to be some kind of PTR change, and specifically if this is going to allow for PTR on consoles. The question of PTR on consoles comes up quite a bit, specifically in the Respawn video series that I do where I answer questions from you guys. In fact, the question card is currently up on the community tab of my YouTube channel right now, so if you have a question, you can go and leave one there. Every single week, someone asks if there's going to be PTR on console, and I've already answered that in one of my previous Respawn videos, but I can briefly explain it here. Yes, it is possible to have PTR on the console. I believe some other games are doing that already, but it is significantly more difficult. Any third-party company that wants to update their game through Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo have to go through a sort of certification process with the update. While there are going to be some similarities, each company is going to want to handle it in its own unique way. This means that a third-party company like Blizzard would have to go through this process for each different console every single time they want to make any kind of small change. This means it can take days or possibly weeks, depending on a lot of factors, to go through this process. However, with Blizzard running their own PTR on PC, they don't need to do any of that sort of stuff. The development team can update their PTR server anytime they want. Any kind of serious issue, they could just shut down the PTR and then make the necessary changes and then bring it back up. They can't do that when they have to go through the long certification process with the other companies. However, there is a way that Blizzard could bring a sort of PTR light to consoles. Adding new characters, new maps, new abilities, or reworking old characters requires a great deal of effort by Blizzard. This also brings with it a level of instability where games and the server can crash. And this isn't such a big deal on the PTR because it's meant to test those sort of things. However, having big game-breaking bugs on the live version of a game can cause quite a few problems. What Jeff Kaplan said in his forum post yesterday was that they were trying to increase the speed of hero balance and allow the meta to shift more frequently. This often doesn't need to be done by major reworks, and instead, smaller changes can be made. A lot of this functionality already exists within the game in custom matches and the workshop. You can modify characters' damage and health pretty easily. If Blizzard wanted to rapidly make changes to heroes, then it's possible that we could have some sort of new game mode that uses these changes. Now, I don't want to diminish the amount of work required to make hero balance changes, actually going through the code and altering the things you need to. But if we're talking about something that's on the rather simple side, like modifying a character's damage or increasing the length of the cooldown, it is possible that it could be as simple as just going in and modifying a single variable, changing it from 8 to 9 or from 20 to 21, right? Or maybe it's not exactly that easy, but I am willing to bet that modifying the existing numbers is substantially easier than trying to change how an ability will work or adding something new altogether. Having a new game mode with the proposed changes could allow for significantly more testing for not just PC players, but also console players as well. And because these are minor changes where they're just, changing a damage value or a cooldown value, the chances of this actually causing some sort of huge catastrophic game-crashing bug is pretty slim. Even if this isn't the case though, and Blizzard just continues using the one PTR they have on the PC, it does sound like they're going to be making much more frequent and yet smaller changes. Rather than substantially nerfing any ability or hero, they may try increasing the cooldown by only a second or two, then push that out to live version of the game and watch it for 2 weeks to see what happens. If it works, then they don't need to change it again. If it's not enough, then they can bump it up again and wait another 2 weeks to see what happens. I have a feeling that this is the kind of small, frequent changes that Blizzard is going to be doing. Something else that Jeff talked about was making the matches faster, and one of the reasons that they didn't really want to add a hero ban system was because it would extend the start of the match. He wants players to be able to actually play the game and hit stuff as much as possible, and wants to minimize the downtime. One of the things that people get really frustrated with are the 2 capture point maps that just turn into a big stall fest where you have a Hammond spinning around and a Mei and, whatever, Lucio on the walls and all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if a part of their new feature or their new strategy going forward is to limit the amount of stall that's able to happen. They've already made a couple of changes to this in the past with the overtime duration and also increasing the respawn time for the defenders. I wouldn't be surprised if they make the matches themselves shorter as well, reducing the overall time that both teams have. Again, they just did this recently with the 2 capture point maps. They gave you less time to do the whole entire match. Of course, I could see a pretty big downside to that sort of thing, specifically for DPS players. Imagine you have to wait 15 or 20 minutes to get into a match, and it only lasts for, let's say, 3 or 4 minutes. Well, that's not really going to be a super fun experience. It's bad enough that some players will wait 10, 15, 20 minutes to get into a match, only for someone to leave and have it be canceled, and then get thrown into the queue to wait all over again. I do like the idea of having more frequent changes. I think that making small modifications very quickly would allow the game to be more balanced and to address issues more quickly, right? If Blizzard sees that, okay, let's say Baptiste, the immortality field, is just way too strong, rather than waiting months and months to put something on the PTR and all this sort of stuff, if they just go ahead and say, all right, you know what, why don't we just lower the duration by like a second or 2? Let's see how that goes. And then they can put that on the live version of the game and see how the meta shifts and how players respond and all that sort of stuff. I think those kinds of changes, the smaller, rapid changes, will definitely be a good thing for the game. Having said that, there are still some characters, like Bastion, who absolutely, without question, need to be reworked. And then other characters like Torbjorn and Symmetra, who have already gotten reworks, but still aren't really where they need to be, and they need to be addressed as well. So there are going to be some changes to abilities and to the way that characters are that wouldn't really work in any kind of PTR light scenario if Blizzard tries to do something like that using an extra game mode on the live version of the game. I think there are still going to be things that need to be tested on the regular PTR just because of those instability issues. Obviously, new characters, new maps would probably still need to be tested on the full PTR as well. But hopefully that clears up some of the questions that you guys have been asking, and now you understand a little bit more of why the PTR was never on the console. And I don't really think that they're going to bring it to console anytime soon. I mean, I could be wrong, and they could just surprise us by saying, hey, we're adding PTR to consoles, but I don't know. It seems like they're probably doing something else. So let me ask you guys, if it's not hero bans and it's not console PTR, what do you guys think the changes are going to be? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to get notified. You can get some cool gear, join my Discord server, or follow me on social media with the links down in the description below. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters, and remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault.